So yesterday I was talking about how Isaiah 24 matches with Joel 2 in the latter part of Joel 2, and it matches with Psalm 69 verse 22, and it matches with um, um, 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 3, and it matches with um, Revelation 6, um, uh, the sixth seal, and there's several others that it matches with. But I'm going to go to Revelation 6. I'm going to show you something here. I guess I first of all need to make sure that I have screen share up. Sixth seal. And let's make sure we get Strong's Concordance up here, because, well, I'll show you in just a second. And I beheld when he had opened up the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. So this, the moon, all right, in Strong's Concordance, it just says the moon, all right? Brightness comes from the word brightness in Greek. Right here it says comes from Celis in Greek, brilliancy, probably akin to the alternate of heriomai. But there is an implication here. Okay? The implication, it is implied that the moon will be full. And what I was talking about yesterday, how the peace deal of the century, there is no other peace plan that was ever called a peace deal, for one. And of course, all the other peace plans, they parsed land away from Israel over and over and over again. That's nothing new here. But what might be different is this. Like I said before, Shavuot. And I don't think this is just any Shavuot, because the 7 sevens, in fact, all the 77s of Daniel 9 are finished. I have been able to prove that. It's so easy to prove that the that the destruction of Jerusalem was 3.5 years from the spring of 70 CE to the fall of 70 CE. The temple was burning on August the 10th, which is the 9th of Av. The war was over on September. The war in Jerusalem was over, but the war was not over. The war in Jerusalem was over at September the 8th, and the final battle, the citadel, I forget what they call it, where the last remnant of Jews went upon the plateau, and apparently, according to Josephus, committed suicide. That spelled the end of the whole thing at 74 CE, marking the exact 7 years that the Christians today say are yet to come, and they have already gone. 62 sevens from 444 or 445 BCE to 0, or I should say, wait a minute, 445 BCE is when Nehemiah asked permission to return to Jerusalem. You can plainly, and what was it? Was it 10, 11 years later? At 434 BCE, he came back and reported to the king of Persia that his work was done. And from that particular point, you start counting to zero and you get 62 sevens. 62 sevens is gone. 7 sevens is gone. The call to rebuild Jerusalem, June 11, 1967. 49 years later, 7 sevens has come and gone. It is finished. It's over. We had on Hoshana Rabbah last year, on the last day of Sukkot, the cloud around the holy place, as Daniel 9 predicted. You can read it. The anointing of the most holy place. Go look it up. Do your own homework here. If that happened last year, as it happened on the same day in 1 Kings 8, same day, then really there's no more time left and things should start to proceed. So, if, now notice I'm using the word if here, folks. I'm not making any predictions today. I'm saying we're supposed to watch, so I'm watching. If we know that the Torah was given to Israel, the old covenant was given to Israel on Shavuot, we know that the Holy Spirit came to the church, the brethren, on Shavuot. It says so in Acts 2. Okay? We also know that in Acts 2, Peter predicted, whether he intended to or not, it doesn't matter at this point. He predicted that it would happen on Shavuot. The sun turned to darkness and the moon to blood would be, Shavuot would be the marker. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So, as I pointed out yesterday, just like all the other peace plans, the peace deal of the century breaks a cardinal rule that you may not do. In Joel 3, parting Jehovah's land. Absolutely something that is absolutely forbidden. In other words, you're supposed to look in Joshua 1, verses 1 through 4. Notice, take note of the boundaries of Israel and proceed accordingly. A violation of that is a violation of the everlasting covenant. Okay, that's the summary of what I was talking about yesterday. So if then, this coming Shavuot on June 9th, 2019 on the Gregorian calendar, the Roman calendar, if that is the date that ends the sin of Israel and that forgiveness of sin proceeds, let's look at the moon phase. Well, we're not even in the first quarter on the moon phase yet. Right here, the implication is a full moon. Let me show you why. Because how can the moon be turned to blood when the phase is out, when it's out of phase? The implication is here the full moon. Now, just to prove the point, if you go to the other versions, let's do this way. Revelation. What verse was that? I want to get to that verse. 6 verse 12. All right, so let's do that. Revelation 6 verse 12. As you notice, in almost every one of these translations, it says the sun turned black as sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon, or the full moon, turned blood red. The sun became dark as sackcloth, and the moon became as red. A New Living Translation. English Standard Version says the full moon became like blood. Berean Study Bible says the whole moon turned to blood. Berean Bible says the whole moon, the whole moon. This Bible says the entire moon. This one does not. That implies full. You see what I'm talking about? The implication is it's on a full moon. Okay, so let's look at the moon phase again here in June. Shavuot on June the 9th. We're not even at first quarter on June the 9th. But we are waxing into the full moon, which is on June 17th. Now, this is conjecture, this is theory. Please, folks, do not take it any more than that, unless, of course, things begin to happen the way that I'm wondering it might happen. If Shavuot marks the end of sin for Israel, and the overturn, in other words, the it's over, it is time for the new covenant to proceed, and then the nations, the Gentiles, start trying to force Israel to break the new covenant after Shavuot. Then they are trying to force Israel to break the new covenant theoretically after it's given to them. I suspect that on this date, or on dates of or on a Shavuot in the future, okay, either this date, June 9th, 2019, or some Shavuot in the future, that the Holy Spirit will be poured out upon all Israel. Okay, so here's the conjecture, here is the theory. If after that, the Gentiles, vis-a-vis the Trump administration, tries to force Israel to break the new covenant after the receiving of the Holy Spirit, just like it happened in Acts 2, wouldn't that be, like I said, forcing them to break the new covenant also? It's kind of hard to break the new covenant if Israel hasn't been given it yet. But if after Israel has been given the new covenant, you see where I'm going with this, don't you? So, not only do we have to watch June the 9th, but every day from June the 9th, at the very least until June the 17th, maybe even all the way to the 21st or 22nd, perhaps. Because the implication is the whole moon became as blood. Now I want to go to Joel 2 just to make sure I didn't miss anything there. Let's see if it says or just implies the whole moon. All right, it says the sun shall be turned in darkness and the moon into blood. All right, so this word in Hebrew is Yareach. Yareach. What does it mean? Does it just mean the moon? Or does it mean full moon? Just means moon. But the implication is, how's the moon going to turn into blood if it's out of phase? That's what I'm getting at. So what I'm saying is this. If nothing happens on June 9, 2019, don't go to sleep, figuratively speaking. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because it could happen on the day that they release the peace plan of the century, on that very day. And what if that day was the 17th? Again, I am not in the business of prognostication or predictions. I don't have that ability. That ability was given to the prophets. All I'm doing is merely reading the words of the prophets, trying not to read any more or any less into what they were saying. I think you understand where I'm going with this. If it's this year, watch the entire week of June 9th, the following week, and even the beginning of the week after, just to make sure. Because we don't know the day or the hour, do we?